What price increase has truly made you realise we're in a cost of living crisis?
Oh, I've got a great one from New Zealand. Oh, you want half a watermelon? Yep, that'll be $47.94. And as you can see, the date was January 2023. And it hasn't changed.
Are we living through the worst economic times in American history? What you're about to watch isn't just another compilation of people complaining about grocery prices. This is a raw, unfiltered look at the reality millions of Americans face every single day. From $48 watermelons in New Zealand to families choosing between groceries and medical care, from employees at Walmart turning a blind eye to food theft because they understand the desperation, to economic data showing that our purchasing power today is worse than during the Great Depression of the 1930s. You'll hear from real people sharing their struggles, a mother whose family went from being pre-approved for a house to not knowing how they'll survive, all within months. You'll see grocery receipts that will shock you and hear explanations of inflation that finally make sense. But this isn't just about doom and gloom. It's about understanding what's really happening to our economy, why your dollar doesn't stretch like it used to, and why an entire generation is being gaslit into thinking they're just entitled, when the numbers tell a very different story. Get ready for some hard truths, real stories, and perhaps most importantly, the data that proves we're not imagining this crisis.
Do you know why people steal groceries in this economy? It's because this costs $23. This salad is $10. These 4 mozzarella balls are $5.16. And this little balanced snack, almost $9. 23 bucks for that. Also, tell me why every one of these items individually is more expensive than ice cream. $4.99 for ice cream, which is unhealthy and you shouldn't be promoting people to buy. But it's more expensive than all of these items individually. $2.49. Does anybody remember when Kraft dinner boxes were 50 cents a box? $2.50 a box now? It's fucking absurd. That used to be like the ultimate poor man's meal. And now I can't afford it.
Living in the US means you could literally go from being ready to buy a house to not even being able to afford to live in a short span of time. We've been trying to get out of our house for a while. Our house is causing a lot of issues for our family. I kid you not, every single time that we finally get ahead and we think it's finally gonna happen, we are finally going to get out of this place, something comes and pushes us back down. In just this first half of the year, we've had so many car issues that it completely wiped out our savings. All the health expenses that I've had to make for my autoimmune disease have had to been all out of pocket, because according to my insurance, I'm not bad enough to be covered. And then we found out that my son has to get braces, and it's one of those emergency situations where if he doesn't get braces, he will need jaw surgery in the future if it's not corrected. And guess what? Our insurance doesn't cover braces. And then just 2 days ago, on my daughter's birthday, our van broke down. We literally went from being pre-approved and ready to buy a house to not knowing how we were going to make it in a matter of months. And that's what it's like to live in the United States.
So this, and this, that was $56 alone. But this little bit of food, plus water and ramen, $236 in Sam's Club. But why?
So I just got back from the grocery store. That's what I got. I got 20 ramen noodles, okay, 2 pounds of beef, tortillas, seasoning, lettuce, tomato. That's $35 worth of groceries. I'm flabbergasted. This is fucking ridiculous, you guys. When are we gonna do something about this?
We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer.
Yikes. One of Australia's richest men has admitted his comments about workers being arrogant were deeply insensitive. You might remember him from his 2017 comments when he was asked if he thinks young people today are faced with never owning a home.
Absolutely, when you're spending $40 a day on smashed avocado and coffees.
Tim Gurner is now a multi-millionaire property developer, founder, CEO, but he has talked about his early days in the past. He said his boss purchased his first property for him when he was around 18 years old to renovate it, which they later sold and split, and his grandfather lent him money for a bank loan to start his own gym in uni. He never backed down from the Avo thing, but he says he deeply regrets his comments this time around, which focused a lot on job cuts.
The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment. People are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue.
After widespread criticism, here's what Mr. Gurner has had to say since. My comments were deeply insensitive to employees, tradies, and families across Australia who are affected by these cost of living pressures and job losses. My words did not convey empathy for those in that situation.
You may have seen this headline floating around. 90 million American adults are struggling to make ends meet financially. The article says about 38.5% of American adults, or 89.1 million individuals, faced difficulty in paying for usual home expenses between April 26th and May 8th. Usual home expenses being things like food, not Ferraris. I know in my life, everyday things have definitely gotten more expensive. I used to be able to feed myself and my partner on $50 a week, and we can no longer do that. Gas is more expensive, rent is more expensive, everything is more expensive than it was 2-3 years ago. There's definitely a problem, and a lot of people are acknowledging like a problem exists, but instead of saying, hey, why don't we pay people more money? Why don't we raise the minimum wage? Why don't we do things like institute subsidized childcare? A lot of people are like, hey, why don't you just eat less? And then these same people will turn around and be like, why aren't people having kids? Why aren't people staying loyal to jobs? I don't know, we can't afford to eat, bro.
In that little bit of time of 45%.
The government is so delulu. How can you be charging $1,500 a month for a one-bedroom and having medical care and like education costs like through the roof? You're so delulu, baby. We're not having children until you lower that shit.
Declining. But here's why your groceries are still so expensive. And I'm like, yeah, they are telling us.
Alright, this is the dumbest fucking TikTok I've ever seen. If you have an apple, and that apple costs $1, and then inflation says it goes up 50%, that apple then costs $1.50. If inflation goes down to 3%, then it's only going up 3%. Inflation going down doesn't mean the price will go back down to $1. It only means that it'll go up less. It's gonna be $1.53 or some shit. You're not gonna have lower prices. It can only go up. Things are only gonna get more expensive.
Can you please lower the prices of food or make it easier to access?
Absolutely not. What's really crazy about this is that I was talking to somebody who works at Walmart a few days ago. My friend told me that they have seen way more people stealing in the past month than they've seen in the whole 3 years that they've worked at Walmart. And I said, what do you guys do when they steal? And they said, we turn our backs because legally they can't do anything, but also because she doesn't fucking care. She sees how much fucking food is. She's not judging them, so she just doesn't say anything. And honestly, I don't judge them either. Like, I'm not even surprised that people are stealing food at this point. People are literally starving out there. The only way we're making it is by couponing. So I'm not surprised that people are stealing food. And honestly, it's only going to get worse. If something isn't done about these corporations and their price gouging and calling it inflation, things are just literally gonna continue to get worse. And people will continue to steal.
This is getting out of hand. It's to a point where people can't live. And I just want to show you something. This right here, I just went grocery shopping for very basic things. Very basic. This amounted to $100. Like, this isn't even... You're telling me this is $100? This isn't even barely anything to feed me for a couple days. Literally just some chicken, eggs, rice, these things, I forget what they're called, and some juices, body wash, deodorant, some thank you cards, and seaweed. $100 for this? Excuse me?
These motherfuckers are crazy. They want $80 fucking for some fucking eggs. Smart and fun, people. Crazy.
$1 million 1993 today is now $2,070,000. Inflation in 5 years will probably devalue half of everyone's money listening to this in their 401ks, IRAs, and their soft saving accounts. Like right now, the world is a wreck, and their only solution to the devaluation is they're gonna have to work harder. Over the last 20 years, 2002 to 2022, salaries have increased 27%, but the cost of a home has gone up 148%. In other words, like our cost of living and lifestyles is not keeping up. Average person drives a $60,000 a year car that has a $50,000 a year salary with over $100,000 of student debt, 60% of America living check to check. We have a problem. And being busy is not the solution, and getting another job is not the solution. You have to graduate and develop more of the Gen Z millennial mind that says there's got to be a smarter way. It can't be the immigrant way of just work harder, because there is something to say for hard work. But if it's not smart enough hard work, then it's stupid work. It's dumb work. And there's a lot of financial idiots out there that have just not gotten themselves educated.
What I'm about to show you is not because I want to hurt people. It's not because I want to make you depressed. It's not because I want to make people sad or down on themselves. I'm only doing this because we need to bring awareness to this situation, because right now Americans are being gaslit into thinking we're just getting lazier and we're too entitled and we're expecting too much. The Great Depression is widely considered, at least where I went to school, as the worst economic time in American history. I want to show you the numbers on what the average income was during the Great Depression to now. Just for reference, the Great Depression is considered to be in this time period, 1929 to 1941. I looked at every single year and looked at what the worst year was. The worst year was 1930 economically for American households. So 1930, the average net yearly income of Americans, this is for one American, not a family, this is for one person, annually was $4,887. Well, let's look at how much money that is in today's money. I'm just gonna let this sit for a second. 1930, $4,881. I know I forgot it was a 7, whatever. 2023. This is for one person, not a family, one person. $88,000 a year in today's money. That was their depression. If that's a depression, look at what we're doing. In 2019, and this was the average income for one American in the United States. Just in case you wanted to see the exact number, I went ahead and converted that over. I even rounded up to 32,000 and put it in for 2023 from 2019, and it's 38,000 a year for one American. We are in a Great Depression. I mean, I said in another video, we're in the worst economic time in American history. We have the lowest purchasing power we have ever had in American history. And they want to make it seem like I'm lying. This is the numbers. One more thing, because I don't want to end on a negative note. I want everyone to remember something. If you're working full time and you found a way to pay your bills, you're never hungry, you got clothes on your back, a car that you can drive, you deserve massive applause for that. And I don't care what anyone says. If you listen to this guy, what a baby, look at him getting in his feelings. I don't care. All of us collectively that have made things happen under these conditions to take care of ourselves. Some of us have kids, take care of our families, wives, brothers, sisters, anybody. Even just taking care of yourself. If you've managed to make that happen, you honestly, cheers to that.
It's absolutely mind-boggling when you have to explain inflation to somebody who's older than you, right? When, because say you're making $40,000 a year today, right? And you go talk to some boomer and they find out you're making $40,000. They'll say something like, "Oh, I was making $40,000 a year back in 1970. And I could buy a house in a second lake house." Well, you want to know what $40,000 in 1970 is the equivalent of today? $100,000. Are you confused? That's because I lied. It's $250,000. Are you confused? It's because I lied again. It's $310,000. If you made $40,000 in 1970, it was like making $310,000 today. And yet, a fucking a dozen eggs costs like $8.50.
No cool intro, no fancy music. I just want to explain inflation in 6 minutes. I have a degree in economics. I spent years trying to understand this. So let's see if I can boil it down. What is inflation? Why is it rising? Why are people worried? And what do interest rates have to do with it?
The Federal Reserve is raising the interest rate
to raise interest rates.
Highest inflation in 40 years.
Listen, I know that I make long videos. I'm into nuance. I'm into backstory. Well, this isn't that. This is quick. No, really, this is quick. Let's go. Okay, first up, the simplest definition. Inflation is when there is more money in the economy than stuff to spend it on. But if you're like me, the simplest definition never does it for you. So let's try this. Imagine a village that has one market where people buy all of their stuff, their food, their clothes. But one day the government shows up because they're worried about the economy of this village. So they tell the people that if they want to take out a loan, they're going to make sure that the banks will not charge them a high interest rate. They want to encourage the people to take out loans and spend money. Oh, and they also drop off a giant pile of cash for everyone in the village. And everyone in the village is like, sweet, I'm feeling pretty rich. Villagers now are going to their market and they're buying way more stuff. Many of them have been eyeing the fancy electric bike in the market that before they couldn't justify, but now they totally can because they have all this new money. The store owner's like, sweet, this is great for business, but he's running out of bikes. In fact, he's running out of everything because now all of these people have extra money and they're buying way more than they used to. The store owner's like, I can't keep up with all this demand. I should raise prices. And that is inflation. But the village is all of us, and the market is the entire economy. When there's extra money floating around and people want to spend it faster than businesses can make stuff, then all of the businesses in all of the industries raise their prices. And that is inflation. It's a natural part of the economy. It's kind of a good thing in small doses because it means that the economy is growing. And it's why movie tickets used to be 25 cents and now they're like $15. And slowly over time, it's fine. Okay, let's go back to the village and see what happens if we keep going at this rate. The store owner has now doubled his prices on bikes. The interest rate is super low, so he takes out a loan to build a new factory to make bikes. This is good. He's growing a business. But the government money eventually runs out, and his prices are still double. But now the store owner has no one to come buy all of his new bikes. And now he has this factory and more employees, but no customers. He has to shut down the factory, lay off everyone, and slowly start lowering his prices. This is called recession. When COVID shut down the world, governments gave us money, free money. They're like, don't panic and hoard all your money. Instead, spend and borrow and keep the economy going. Here in the US, they literally sent us $3,200 checks. They gave $600 a week to people who were unemployed for months and months and months. They gave subsidies to people with kids. They increased spending on food stamps. I mean, trillions and trillions of dollars of stimulus money. This was vital aid to people in need. But even people who didn't lose a job got a check in the mail. It was free money for everyone. And we spent it.
I just picked up myself a new bike. Demand is up across the country.
It's time to grind, Peloton.
We all just got these big checks from the government. During a pandemic, we're like, YOLO, I'm buying a boat or a Peloton or whatever.
Pokemon cards.
There's Netflix.
Fortnite.
A new motor.
Peloton.
Good soak in a hot tub. Animal Crossing.
Push it out a little bit so it fits.
No, don't you dare!
But pair all this new spending with the fact that the pandemic also made it harder for factories and ships and retailers to get us all this stuff.
Supply chain issue.
Global supply chain.
Supply chain.
So now you have an economy where people have way more money than normal and they're ready to spend it, but the economy can't get them stuff fast enough. So what do businesses do with all this insane new demand? They raise prices all at the same time, and that is inflation. I feel like we're getting this at this point. But what do interest rates have to do with all this?
Raising the interest rate.
Interest rate.
Or the Fed.
Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve.
Most countries have a central bank, the puppet master of the economy, the bank of all banks for that country. But it's not like a normal bank that stores our money and then lends it out and collects interest to make profit. That's what a normal private bank does. The central bank, which we call the Fed here in the US, is run by the government. So their job is to set the rules or policies that all the other banks have to follow. And the central bank isn't motivated by profit, but rather their job is to babysit the economy, to keep it growing, to make sure people have jobs, to make sure that prices don't fluctuate too much so that we can keep growing nicely. No slowdown, no recession. That is what the Fed is there for. But seriously, the Fed is like a puppet master, and we're the puppets, and it's kind of creepy. They pull strings in the economy to get us to spend our money in a certain way, which in turn affects how much businesses raise or drop their prices. And guess what? It totally works. One of the strings that they have to pull in the economy is called the interest rate. Want to borrow money to buy a car or a house or expand your business? You're going to be way more likely to do that if you only have to pay 2% interest on that loan as opposed to like 6%. Lower interest rates equal people and businesses want to borrow and spend money. So during the pandemic, the central bank was like, we need everyone to spend money. So they lowered the interest rate and people borrowed and people spent and it totally worked. We're like freaking puppets. So a low interest rate helps stimulate the economy. But once again, we're in this same place where there's now too much money to borrow and spend and not enough goods and services to spend it on. So what do businesses do all at the same time? They raise prices to meet all this new demand all at the same time. And now your money is worth less. And that is inflation.
Home prices rising at their highest
Astronomical bidding wars.
Rents are going up by nearly 24%.
So that's what's happening right now. All the prices are rising kind of at the same time. What that means is that your $100 bill is now worth 8% less than it was last year. Like the same money is worth less because your purchasing power just got diluted. And imagine if that keeps happening. Like instead of 8%, it's 50%. Now your $100 bill is worth what $50 used to be. And that's when people start to freak out. And our economy that's built on human psychology starts to falter and we fall into a recession or a depression even, if it gets real bad, which is exactly what the Fed is built to avoid. So they're back to pulling their strings and they've started raising rates.
The Federal Reserve is raising interest rates. The Federal Reserve taking action to try and curb rising inflation.
They're gently raising the interest rate to cool down all of this hardcore spending and borrowing. See if they can steer the ship back on course. And let's hope it works. Okay, did we do it? Did we do it in the time period that I promised I would? I have no idea. We'll find out.
If you made it through that entire compilation, you've just witnessed something powerful. Real people sharing real struggles in an economy that's fundamentally broken for working families. Here's what I think. We can't keep pretending this is normal. When Walmart employees are deliberately ignoring shoplifting because they know people are starving, when families are choosing between medical care and groceries, when our purchasing power is literally worse than the Great Depression, we're past the point of individual solutions. This isn't about avocado toast or coffee. This is about a system that's failing the very people who keep it running. So here's my question for you. What's your story? Have you felt this squeeze in your own life? Are you spending more on groceries while making the same salary? Have you had to make impossible choices between basic necessities? Drop a comment below and share your experience. Are we really in the worst economic times in American history, or is there something I'm missing? Let's have an honest conversation about what's really happening out there. And if this video opened your eyes to something new, share it with someone who needs to see it. Sometimes the first step to solving a problem is admitting we have one.